Hi, welcome to Therapeutic Moment. I'm Stephanie Patterson, and I'm here to help you learn new ways to cope with life and to be more emotionally resilient. Today we're talking about being alone versus being lonely. We're going to talk about the differences of those and what you can do about it. From an outsider's perspective, someone who's alone and someone who's lonely can look very much the same. But for the person who's experiencing that moment, it can feel quite different. You know, someone can be around a lot of people, like at a party, and feel very lonely. Or you can be completely alone by yourself in your garden or out to lunch and be completely content. But for the person who's feeling and experiencing that loneliness, it's pretty miserable. You feel like a sense of isolation, like there's something lacking or missing inside. It feels like it's not a choice, like you're estranged from others, and that maybe this estrangement is caused by some kind of defect in you. Like there's some reason why you can't be around with other people, why you're not a part of a group or haven't found that special someone, and that you can't really integrate with your fellow human beings, that there's some flaw in you that's causing this. And for a long period of time, when you experience loneliness, it can lead to a weakened immune system, depression, and even heart disease. And scientists have noticed that the part of our brain that processes social exclusion is actually the same part of the mind that processes physical pain. So a heartbreak can really be just that. It can feel like your heart is actually breaking. Now, we all know in relationships, we can feel lonely in them. You know, it might be that your heart is a little bit closed off to the other person. You know, maybe you're uncomfortable with being seen and fully known. Maybe you're not sure if the other person is safe enough to be your authentic, true self. Or maybe you're uncomfortable with the deeper layers of your heart and your emotions. And maybe you're just distractible. Or the opposite could be true. Maybe the other person, isn't quite giving back, even though you're giving your heart to them and your attention, and they're just feeling a little closed off. And when this happens in a relationship where one person is closed off, or maybe both, there's often you're going to feel an emotional distance happen and potentially loneliness in that relationship, whether it's over a long period of time or just for that moment. And another reason why the pandemic has been so hard for so many people is because we've run out of distractions from our loneliness that's been there all along. And we're forced to sit with the company of ourselves, which we're not used to do. So for today, let's review some tips on how to manage and cope with feelings of loneliness, since they're going to come up sometime in our lives. Let's learn how to get a little more comfortable with them and what you can do about it. Now, loneliness is never easy to deal with. And one reason why the pandemic has been so hard for so many people is because they've run out of distractions from their loneliness in their lives that's been there all along. And they're forced to sit with themselves, which they're not used to. And so since from time to time we're all going to feel some loneliness in our lives, let's go over some tips on what you can do to manage those feelings better. If you find yourself feeling lonely, here's some things you can do to feel more socially connected. The first thing you can do is join an online class. Now, these classes aren't the ones that you do by yourself, but look for one where you are part of a cohort, where you're either logging on with other students and learning at the same time with them, or you're part of some kind of chat group where you can interact with students on your own time. Another thing you can do is create your own chat group with, on your phone with people that you know who have a common interest. You could have a group talking about plants. And so anytime something interesting pops up in your garden, you can share it with this group of people and feel connected with them surrounding that topic. Another thing you can do is volunteer volunteering is one of the best ways to feel connected to your community and to others. So find a way where you can volunteer in your community. There are many needs out there. Some of them are formally made, and others you can just kind of create your own service. So keep an eye out and find a good way to serve. There's also online support groups that you can join. So if you're struggling with a particular issue, then go online and search for a support group that fits your needs. You can also strengthen your existing relationships by writing notes or giving forgiveness or doing phone calls. The most happiest people that I know in my life personally are people who write letters. They write letters to tell people how special they are, or just to update them, or say hi, or maybe it's a card for a holiday, but they're constantly writing and sending out letters. And when you do that, you are feeling connected to that person in the process, even though you aren't actually interacting with them or seeing them in person. So if you're feeling a little bit lonely, try strengthening the relationships you currently have, and maybe give good old-fashioned snail mail a try. So another thing you can do is pet. If you don't already have a pet, then maybe you want to consider getting one. Or if you have a pet and that one's not fulfilling your emotional needs, maybe consider another one. Pet ownership has increased a lot since the pandemic, and because loneliness has also got up. So maybe a pet is something that can help with that sense of loneliness. You can be connected with that animal. Compassion for others is also really helpful. You may not even, say you don't have an opportunity to reach out to someone, or you don't have the time, but just thinking about someone, about what they're going through, what they think about something, or their particular struggles, and maybe sending them some positive thoughts in your mind or through prayer, or actually reaching out to them and asking how you can help make their day better. So those are some things that you can do when you're feeling lonely to kind of pull your way out of it a little bit and to manage those feelings better. But if you're wanting to get really good at being alone and not feeling lonely, then listen up for the next half of this video. When you're alone but not lonely, it's when you're enjoying your own company and you have a rich inner life experience, and it feels like a choice and it feels enjoyable. And research has shown that being able to do this enhances your creativity, it helps recharge your brain, and improves your relationships. And if being alone is hard, that might say something a little bit about the relationship that you have with yourself. And that relationship is really the one that sets the tone for all of your other relationships. So it's important to take a good look at that. And if you struggle with your relationship with yourself, you may want to consider reaching out to a therapist who can help you kind of work through those dark corners of your mind that you find yourself trying to avoid. So if you'd like some strategies and ways to better enjoy your alone time, here are some things you can do. The first thing is really about scheduling. When we're busy and we're in kind of a normal swing of life, then we have business or social obligations that give structure to our day. You might have to drop the kids off school by 7:45, go to the dentist by 10, maybe you're hosting a meeting at 6 p.m. You got these things throughout your day that give it some structure. But when you're home all day and don't have social obligations filling up your calendar, you need to fill it yourself, to give a similar rhythm to your busy days. That means you're going to need time in your day for work, time in your day for rest, time in your day to play, and you want it to have kind of a consistent rhythm each day. So find out those times that they should be for you and fill them out and put them actually on your calendar. Even if you give a little bit of wiggle room and flexibility to that day, to have it written out and to have an idea of what you're going to be doing when you're with yourself can be really helpful. It helps give that balance, and it helps the time go by a lot faster. So tip number 2 is to exercise. Exercise gives you endorphins and it feels good. And so it really sets the tone for that me time that you have after you exercise to have that inner experience in your life or in your body be a positive one. And number 3, you can increase your sense of meaning. So it makes your life a lot more fascinating and rich when you can have some kind of meaning holding it together. That might mean delving deeper into your religion or exploring your spiritual beliefs, or could be even setting goals around whatever you feel like your purpose is in life. So pulling on those big life questions and those deeper meanings that you have in your life and playing around with them and exploring them is a great thing to do when you're alone. And number 4 is to have self-care. Find out what comforts you. Be a good comforter for yourself. So that's figuring out what's relaxing, what's comforting, what's enjoyable, and for what length of time. You know, all good things come to an end, and there's a time when it's been too much. So getting to know yourself in that way, how to nurture and yourself so you can relax and hang out with yourself and have it be pleasant. Okay, number 5. Something creative. You know, artists and musicians, they're always at it. No, well, not always, but they can often be at it for long hours and never feel lonely because they're in the company of their music or their creation. And so it doesn't feel lonely at all when you really can get that nice flow going on creating something. Another technique, if all else is failing, is just to distract yourself. You know, we've got books you can read, there's movies where you can feel like you're around others. You can play music or a game, and again, so you're just distracting yourself away from the fact that you can be alone, but you don't need to be bored. So find something for yourself to do so you're not bored. Number 7, go out in nature. I mean, go anywhere in nature and just sit for a moment and sit still. And you will notice all the animals start coming out and all the motions of the trees and the plants around you, and you'll discover you're not alone at all, that you're a part of some huge connected environment around you and that there's all kinds of beings surround you. So that's a fun one to try out too. And last suggestion I have for you is to plan for the future. You know, if being in the present moment is just getting a bit dry and lengthy for you, you can rekindle that hope that life will be full of interaction again by making plans for the future. You know, imagining like fun times that you'll have with other people that aren't physically present now, that even if maybe being alone right now is hard, that it won't be that way forever. So make plans for the future. And when you learn how to be okay with yourself, being okay being alone, you know, you can really discover all the wonderful relationships that you can have with music, with art, with nature, and with reading. There's all kinds of things that you can do that feel very enriching, just like social interactions can be. You know, I love the way that researcher Jay Shukla puts it. He says, solitude restores body and mind, while loneliness depletes them. So prefer being alone and avoid loneliness. Bye.